Hello and welcome to What We're Watching. It's Katherine.
And Liz.
And Ed.
And John.
So we're obviously ready for our Christmas episode.
This is the Jingle All the Way edition.
Wait, Ed, I want you to turn to the side. Yes, so we could see that there's ears on your hat. I love it.
I would like to believe these are like Spock ears, because without the hat, that's a very Spock pointiness.
Are you saying Spock is an elf? That's rude.
I'm saying all elves are from Vulcan.
That's a
I feel
stretch
like they're
now.
too happy to be Vulcans.
They were rejected from Vulcan. That's exactly it.
All right, so here's the plan. We're going to do our top 10 favorite Christmas movies. So there were two of them that I felt like we were going to fight over who had custody, because usually we each bring two things to the podcast, and we kind of wanted to keep that formula, but to get to 10, there would actually need to be another two, right? So I was like,
Which I was like a lot, but Katherine likes a lot.
well, so there were definitely two that I felt like we would fight over who got custody of them.
Because we did end up having a huge fight.
Wait, you're not wearing a hat. He's not wearing nothing.
What the?
He's a Grinch.
He's the tree trunk.
All right.
fine.
Okay. All right. So, John, what were you going to say?
Oh, what? Me?
Yes.
I was saying that we had a huge fight over what we picked. So perhaps your prediction wasn't true, but continue.
Well, I'm saying we didn't have a fight because I pre-selected these two knowing that everyone would fight over these two. Okay, spoiler.
They're public domain, really, in our family.
Yeah. So it's Elf and A Christmas Story, right?
yeah.
Those are the biggies.
Yeah.
Okay. So who wants to be the front man for Elf? I think
Santa! I know him! I know him! I know him!
I was like, it's got to be you, Ed.
Oh, wait. Am I doing Elf or A Christmas Story where I look like the kid? Because it could have been either one that you
Oh
thought
my
was.
gosh. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
Well,
now we've committed. You're doing
Okay,
Elf.
so I'm doing Elf. Elf, directed by Jon Favreau.
Yay, Jon Favreau.
Iron Man's, limo driver. Until he upgraded to, like, management stuff.
Which also he directed Iron Man, so, But he does like to do not a cameo, but a part in stuff that he directs.
He did a cameo on this one.
Yeah, but this was one of his earlier directorial movies. He had done a couple of things before this, but this was the big thing.
Yeah, most people know him from Swingers.
Yeah, but he didn't direct Swingers. He wrote it. But
I
he,
didn't say that. I said most people know him from Swingers.
Correct.
Although-
I just wanted to clarify because I had been talking about directing.
With Vince Vaughn.
His co-star in one of my selects later on. It's a surprise in case anyone's very aware of what
interesting.
Vince Vaughn's
Okay.
Yeah, the
movie
connections,
entry.
the connections.
And, Will Ferrell plays a human being raised by elves in, the North Pole and finds out a little obviously too late to everyone else. But somehow he's just been in the mystery and magic of Christmas and doesn't realize he's 6'4" and taller than every other being around except the polar bears and the narwhal, Mr. Narwhal.
Poor
Narwhal.
Buddy the elf.
Yeah. It's a very, very sweet story.
It really is, and they got some interesting additional characters, like James Caan. You wouldn't have expected him in a real sweet Christmas movie. It's not really his energy.
Well, he's not actually being real sweet until, the end. He's being very grouchy, which is great.
You're not even singing along. Yeah, I am. I'm singing.
Oh, were you mouthing
right,
it just
right.
now?
And Bob Newhart, who was always never not like a sweetheart type of guy, but he was very like logical between running the hotel and being a psychiatrist, I'm not giving him the sweet spot, nice older, grandpa style character. And then, of course, he shows up as the nice, sweet, older grandpa style character.
Papa
Yeah,
Elf, is that what he
because-
is? Yeah.
So once Buddy realizes that he is maybe not elfin born, and Papa Elf might not be his actual father. That's really the story of the movie, right, Ed? Because he basically goes to
New York.
Right.
And unfortunately, that news blew his mind, and he nearly passed out, knocked everything over in the test area. But don't forget, he was outed by Peter Billingsley from A Christmas Story, who's also
connection.
in that movie.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Christmas energy going on, despite even some of the not most Christmassy people in it. And in New York, he finds himself in a giant department store. I guess, do those still exist?
Oh, yeah.
They've all kind of disappeared in the Southern California area. The ones that were around from my childhood.
They would have an amazing toy department like that.
Yeah.
In New York,
Super decorated,
Yeah,
too,
there's
yeah.
still like a Macy's, a Bloomingdale's. They would have a Santa Claus that you're going to sit on his lap. All those elements, yeah.
Even like a Christmas Story, which has a giant department store, Santa, elf sitting on his lap, that whole moment.
Oh my gosh,
There's
the
just, like,
connections.
so much less of that around nowadays. So I was like, oh, right, they're in a department store. Okay, right. And he just really like fully brings the Christmas energy and basically gets everyone on board in that department. Between Zooey Deschanel eventually fully becoming a elf.
I mean, does he actually get the people who work in the department on board?
6-inch ribbon curls.
Yeah, that feels like not in the spirit to me. But.
Well, I think by the time you realize that they got even the New York State Troopers kind of were on board by the end of the movie. They were such the wrong energy, and then they were like, really? Everyone was singing at the end. Even James Caan was singing, John.
Do you mean the Central Park Rangers?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Don't lose your hat. Don't lose your
I
hat.
don't want to lose my head over this, my ears. So, it's a great, fun romp, and I think there's actually a book published after the fact. It's pretend that this is based off of a book because there's a book publisher thing, but now I
that's
think there's
cute.
actually a book that you can buy, Buddy Christmas. I believe I have the special edition DVD with like all sorts of bonus features and like sing-along edition and a quiz and like cookie recipes that I've never used. You know?
Oh, wow, that's so
I hope
cute.
they have that spaghetti recipe with molasses syrup and. But Zooey Deschanel does sing quite a few kind of old-timey Christmas carols by the piano, and Peter Dinklage has a great cameo in it. I mean, I feel like if you haven't seen it, I mean,
Yeah,
is there a chance you haven't seen it?
Well, this is just a reminder. You can watch it every year.
It's still
Yeah.
fabulous. It holds up.
I do love the story that Will Ferrell had pretty much just wrapped up Saturday Night Live the year before, and he's out in New York in this full
Elf uniform.
costume.
Will Ferrell in tights, and it was really cold out. The bright yellow tights do not cover the groin area either. So it was like, wow, for this to be like his first leading man movie, you might wonder if this was a risk that would not pay off.
Well, he has said in interviews, he was like, I might be insane. This might be really a bad move. But then it turned out it was not. It was magical.
Yeah. And they have stories about James Caan just looking at him like, what are you doing? Like through 90% of the film,
I'm
like, you're
sure.
an idiot. And supposedly afterwards he told him like, I didn't get it, but God, it actually worked. Okay.
Yeah.
And it really is a story about, where do you belong, finding your place in the world, and that you can be this very unique / unicorn type of human being, and you will find your people.
And to bring up something else that I'm going to reference later, a misfit.
I was just going to say,
So,
I don't think I'd ever connected that this is like the sequel to the Island of Misfits. This is a misfit finding his way back into the regular world and finding a way to fit.
There are so many elements of it, from the Rankin and Bass, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I mean, it's almost an homage, and then, as Ed said, like a continuation of the story of one of the misfits.
And remember, what I love in the end, it's not really Buddy doesn't change himself so much. He makes the world sort of also love who he is as well, which is a great message. It's like he didn't have to start wearing 3-piece suits. He didn't have to completely change who he is. The other great cameos are Ed Asner
As Santa,
yeah.
for sure.
Faison Love as the manager was so talk
good.
about like you just got a little bit, but you're really going to go for it. So good. And Mary Steenburgen, who plays basically his stepmother.
James Caan's wife.
Yep.
I want to shout out Amy Sedaris as the secretary.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, you're so cute. Are you singing Telegram?
Yeah, no, he's
Go
not.
on in.
How many kittens?
Yeah, 8 kittens. Oh, I don't know. I've never declawed 8 kittens. Just bring them by the trailer, I guess. I'll try.
Click.
Like, what?
Artie
Oh, my God.
Lang is Gimbel's Santa. Great.
You did it! You did it! The world's best cup of coffee. You did it!
There's so
many.
There's so many iconic moments and lines in it, and it holds up. It's like a wonderful little like get in the holiday mood vibe.
Absolutely.
And I think it's, else is like it's contemporary enough because, I love a movie that takes place in New York in winter. How fabulous. And it doesn't feel like dated, even though it was, I think initially, wasn't it out in
2003.
2003. So it's 21 years old. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, it definitely still holds up, and it is probably the tippy top, maybe tied for the tippy top of our 10 favorites. Okay, so speaking of the tie of the tippy top of the 10 favorites, A Christmas Story.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we have done a full episode of Huge Fans, our podcast Huge Fans, about A Christmas Story. So we've really gone into it. So if you need more...
I can do a quick recap of it.
Yeah, go for
it. Okay, so The Christmas Story was brought out in 1983. None of us saw it in the movie theaters. There's no way. So this was one of those things, probably not even on early cable television. It might have been when they started to run it 24 hours.
Yeah, the marathon.
A marathon on Christmas Eve on like Channel 5, which is like a local LA station, and they would just run it for 24 hours. And because, we were also helpful with Mom. We were probably like, what? There's a million gifts to wrap and dinner to make and mass to go to. We'll just sit in front of the TV.
Watch the same movie over and over and over.
You become a parent, you're like, sometimes it is better if some of the little ones are out of the way. I bet if we asked Mom, she's never actually seen the movie.
Oh, no, probably not.
Because we've all seen it 100 times, and I've seen it so many times at certain parts of it. Like recently with my son, I sat down and watched it from beginning to end. But I'm like, gosh, I'll just dip in at any point in it.
Of course.
So a little background. It was released in theaters in 1983. It was directed by Bob Clark. It was based on the story. The author was Gene Shepard. The story of Ralphie Parker, who wants a Red Ryder rifle, air rifle for Christmas. And how is he going to get it? It's really a pure story. It's like, because at that age, it's the belief of Santa that he's going to fulfill your wishes.
Yep.
It's very pure. It also leads to disappointment, all the family dynamics that happen. The cast is led by Ralphie, played by Peter Billingsley, who we just talked about was also an elf. I think he was 10 in it. I still believe in Santa. So because he has a younger brother, Randy.
Randy.
And his parents were played fabulously by Melinda Dillon was the mother, and the father was played by Darren McGavin. Basically on Wikipedia, it's like the old man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's like really like, it's of the era of still going to school, like the time before your Christmas break and leading up to all that excitement.
Well, it's set in like 1940s, really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is, it is not of an era that we can relate to per se, but some of the curmudgeon elements of our own father, for sure, we're like, God, this is really familiar. And there are so many quotable lines that I think if you don't have it in your vernacular, I mean, you kind of go like, this is one of those things like, regardless of your age, you need this as part of your...
Oh, yeah.
You need this in your DNA. You need to understand this. I mean, I'm going to do some of the classic lines just because why not? I don't think we did that last time. So, and then we'll remind you of a couple scenes. So, I'll start with the greatest gift I'd ever received or would ever receive. Who said that line?
That sounds like a Ralphie.
But adult or child?
That sounds like the voiceover line.
Yes.
Nice,
so
Ed.
it's basically the morning of, because that's an awesome element of Ralphie. He has an active, like, fantasy imagination. So a lot of times he'll kind of go into his own little world fantasizing about something. So the morning of, spoiler alert, he actually does, through quite a few perilous hurdles, he does get the Red Ryder rifle. Because the parents, especially the mother's big fear was that he'd shoot his eye out. So that sort of reflecting back on his childhood, he's like, wow, that was one of the greatest, mornings of my life to receive the gift I really wanted. So he immediately kind of goes into a fantasy land where he's like a cowboy and has to save his family. And, it immediately goes wrong. Don't shoot your eye out. And he basically shoots his eye out. I remember the first time,
immediately. Yeah.
I remember seeing that as a kid. You're like, oh my God, it actually happened. Like, he actually shot his eye out. Like, oh my God.
And the tragedy that he broke his glasses. Oh. Yeah.
Because those of you, we almost should put a picture up of Eddie, looked so much
At
like...
that age, yeah.
At that age. And he wore glasses at that age. So it was like, we were like, oh my God, Eddie, what if this happened to you?
Interestingly, I've never into guns, so there was a difference between the two of us.
Yes.
Yeah, that would not have been a gift that you would want.
With 8 children, there was no way our parents were going to allow like BB guns or anything like
Air
that.
rifles,
Oh
no.
my
No,
gosh,
no.
what a disaster that would have been. Another great line, and it kind of tells you the time frame this movie took place in. Ovaltine, a crummy commercial.
Yeah.
they're listening to radio for commercials, okay? And you had to send away to get things back. And he got basically
Decoder
ring.
not ring. I think it was like a little wheel or something.
Dial. And he's decoding the secret message to see how he can, be involved with rescuing. It was like, I can't remember, it was like,
Wasn't it Orphan Annie?
yes, okay. So everything's a gimmick. It turns out to be Ovaltine. And I mean, I do say every time I hear it, I'm like, Ovaltine's pretty good. I need to go buy some. So the commercial still works.
The commercial still works. Mm-hmm.
Another one I love is, over the years, I got to be quite a connoisseur of soap.
Oh, right. The piquant flavor of,
Yeah, he goes,
I forget, Lifebuoy maybe?
No, he goes, though
Yeah.
my personal preference was for Lux, I found the Palmolive had a nice piquant after dinner flavor. Heavy, but with a touch of mellow smoothness.
Oh, my God.
Now, I don't know if you two boys ever got it. I think we were on the tail end of it in our family, where if you said a bad word, I do remember getting soap put in my mouth.
Yes. But it wasn't this, which I'm looking at the image on your screen, where it's like just a bar of soap in his mouth and he's just sitting there. Ours was much more like lathering, like in your mouth.
No, I got a bar of soap.
What? No, I got a
Like
lather.
mom like squirted soap in your mouth?
No. More just like lathered it up and like put it in my mouth, I think.
And then took it
No? Yeah. That's what I remember.
Well, I don't remember sitting
Maybe
there.
she had refined it
Yeah,
by the
I
time
don't
she got
remember
to you.
sitting there for like 10 minutes, like, whoa, I was like in my mouth, like, oh. I mean, I had a big gag reflex as a child, so mom probably was so annoyed. She's like, oh, fine, but we did not curse. We definitely had a very similar
Not then, anyway.
upbringing that a bad word, you were going to get in trouble. And this is another famous one that I love. And it does remind me of our father. In the heat of battle, my father wove a tapestry of obscenities that, as far as we know, is still hanging in spades over Lake Michigan. I mean, our dad did not cuss, but the context of why that happened, which was he went to go help his father and it went wrong. And there is this element, like, you literally think you're going to be killed because that happened.
Yeah.
So, it just, for some reason, the sweaters, the curmudgeon-y element of it, the bewildered, like what's happening vibe with the dad always reminded me of our father. The mom's styling always made me feel like she was hard to nail down as much on the time period.
Yeah, I
but
agree,
I
yeah.
still loved her. I'll just end it on a really great one. Fragile. It must be Italian.
Yeah. No, it's not Italian. Yeah, the lamp was one of the iconic moments.
I mean, now that we think about it, it's either French or Italian, that lamp.
Yes.
Take another look.
Yeah.
The father liked to enter contests, and he actually won. And he thought it was going to be a major award.
It was a major award.
And it was, you can now buy it pretty much online on Amazon. It was a woman's leg in fishnet stockings and a black high heel with just a nice sort of fringe lamp shade on the
As
top.
sort of like the skirt. Yeah.
And of course, the mother is mortified by this, and he puts it in the front window. I mean, you understand his pride, and you're really happy for him, but wow, it just, you understand why she's mortified.
Well,
So-
and the controversy over whether or not she purposefully broke it is so great.
Oh, did she or did she not?
You
Archer?
used all the glue on purpose.
And the tape, when he's trying to tape it together. Oh my
Only one thing in the world could have dragged me away from the soft glow of electric sex gleaming in the window. His little hand goes up and it's just an all-time classic. Like, we've done a huge fans on, which maybe we should just repost so you can listen to. Let's
course.
just talk about it endlessly for an hour. But the Christmas Story, and you know what? At the end we'll tell you where you can watch these, because that's important too.
Yeah, okay, that's a great idea. We'll do it all at the end.
Yep.
The one other one that we can't forget is the Triple Dog Dare You.
How could I even?
I mean, that's...
In a breach of etiquette.
It goes, wait. Schwartz created a slight breach of etiquette by skipping the triple dare and going right for the throat.
Yeah, so I love the friends. So that's Flick, Schwartz, and then the bully, Scott Farkas.
Yes.
Yeah, so they were great.
And, this was a time, if you got bullied in school, I mean, we were someone of this era, you just kind of took it. I mean, there really wasn't the anti-bullying, go tell your parents. For the most part, you really handled it yourself. So, Triple Dog Dare You, those elements of like, ooh, Triple Dog Dare You. So there's a whole sequence that goes on with bullying and, even between friends bullying each other to do things that they probably should not have done. I mean, my favorite is when the teacher realizes he's not in class after this incident, his schoolmate.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And,
The teacher.
the Ralphie and his friends are like, I don't know.
What?
Where
Oh, where is he?
I don't know where he'd be. Totally clueless.
Those are great faces that they made. I mean, think of them as like young actors in that moment. They're so good. They're like, because they're acting badly that they don't know. That's kind of amazing that they were able to pull that off.
It's just really a classic. I mean, it just stands up. I almost want to go watch it again right now. So,
Well, you can, because I'll tell you where there will be a marathon again this year.
Oh, yeah.
So it's streaming and available as a marathon.
Perfect.
So
Okay, great.
We'll talk about that at the very end. Okay, so I'm going to talk about one of my all-time favorites. It's part of a group of stop-motion animations, and that's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh, yeah.
Is my favorite of the Rankin Bass Christmas specials that they did. They did a bunch of other stuff. So Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, they did in 1964, and that was an adaptation from the song from 1949 by Johnny Marcus, which is weird to think that it was like...
So that's a Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Yeah, which is
Reindeer.
hilarious to think like that.
Oh, you mean
was just
Johnny Marks? Oh, okay.
yeah. I mean, I
don't know who he is either. I don't know why I reacted that way. Oh, Johnny Marks.
I'm like, did I miss something? I think he
No.
was like more in the country, and also 1949. This is not an era of music that I'm.
What's
pretty
crazy is his
up on.
descendants are still like living off this.
I hope
we don't
so.
have to work.
I hope
Johnny,
so.
Uncle Johnny wrote Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Right. So the Rudolph one, Rankin Bass did in 1964, and then they have a bunch of other ones that they did. Most notably, I mean, I'm not a super fan of this one, but The Little Drummer Boy in 1968, Frosty the Snowman, which is a good one, in 1969, Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Oh, I like that one.
Which is a good one because you get the young Santa with the red hair. I love that. So cute. And that's 1970. And then A Year Without Santa in 1974. And that is the one with the Snow Miser and the Heat Miser, which is really awesome. Now, I personally own this on a DVD collection set.
Yes.
So I can watch this anytime I want. But...
You'd have to plug in your DVD player.
That's true. And I will, because it is actually kind of hard to find on stream.
Yeah, because when we grew up, it was sort of a special event when they would air, and you had to catch it. And that was one of the rare occasions Mom and Dad would let us watch TV on like a weeknight. Because it was like, if you didn't watch it then, you were watching it.
Well, in a weird way, it's still kind of like that. It was a TV special, and it was made and aired that year on NBC, and aired a couple years on NBC, and then switched to CBS for a bunch of years, and is now going back to NBC. So it will air one time this year on NBC. And that's kind of it.
Unless you're our sister Rosemary, who famously in our family, she recorded all of them and without commercials. So she was like sitting in front of
Oh my gosh,
VHS
really?
player, like stop, start, like for our little nieces. At that time, just two nieces were coming for Christmas.
Oh,
and she
how
wanted to have a
cute.
whole tape of them. Well, this is the problem. They don't watch a lot of TV, or they didn't at the time. So let's snuggle in, and it might have been the Heatmeister. Oh no, the Abominable Snowman. Okay,
Abominable.
He
So-
had been working out a lot that year.
so the Abominable Snowman. Did I say it wrong again?
No, you got it this time.
Okay, God. I'm like, geez, what am I saying here? He's scary.
He's scary. So
and
he's
if
in
you're
Rudolph,
like
yeah.
3 and 5, because that's basically what they were.
Even though he turns out to be nice.
You couldn't get to that. And then, I'm not going to spoil anything, or maybe I am. If you haven't seen it at this point, I can't help you. When he gets all his teeth pulled out, it's like, that's even like, they were so traumatized by it. It was
Whoops.
like, we couldn't even get through one whole thing. And she'd record like all 4 of them and had been like, breaking his sweat to do it for the last 2 weeks. And they were so traumatized by it. Like, they were just like, oh gosh, he's so scary. Oh my gosh, his teeth are being pulled out. They're so mean to Rudolph. It was like, wait a minute. What? I mean, you're missing you're not getting any of this right. I'd rather watch the DVD without commercials than try to watch it on NBC or
Well,
CBS.
the nice thing is, it's a quick search on Google. You can really pretty easily buy the DVD collection, Blu-ray, DVD, either of those. And some of them have like all of the
Yeah, because you know
all
what's
of their-
weird?
but yeah.
I mean, their stop motion with the awesome felt. They used a lot of felt, everybody. They also switched into pure animation. And those do not hold the equal charm. Although they are good. I
Well,
still
yeah,
like
because
them.
Frosty the Snowman is
It's
just a
so
standard
sweet
animation.
because that's just so lost love and holding on to the belief in something.
Yeah.
And it's actually, oh my God, I'm becoming mom. It's almost a story of resurrection
Oh no! Oh
because it's rebirth. Do you come back every year? So
golly. Okay.
so anyways,
Well-
I like a little more of the old school. I definitely lean a little more to the stop motion, janky movement. And all the felt. I mean, the felt is so awesome.
Well, that's the connection back to Elf. There's so many elements in the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The opening of it, the snowman. There's so many styling things that parallel directly to Elf. I mean, I think even the Elf costumes are basically that design.
There's a great on Netflix series called What We Are Watching. No, that's us. There's a great series on Netflix called How It Was Made, I think, and they'll just dive deep, kind of like what we do on Huge Fans, on a movie, and they did it on Elf, and they do the parallels of being inspired by Rankin and Bass, and particularly Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and elements of that, and how they had to fight to get Narwhal and some of those elements in there because they just felt like it was so important. But you are completely correct that they are linked, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Which is another reason that Elf just feels so nostalgic and wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I will say, I mean, we'll revisit at the end, but it only is available for purchase if you want to stream it on Apple TV Plus. That's the only place that I could.
How rude.
I think it's available at other places to purchase, though.
Okay, so to purchase, but the only place I saw that it was super obvious to purchase was Apple TV Plus. And then, you could just buy the whole set. That would be my recommendation. Okay, Liz, why don't you take over and you do one of your top faves?
My top fave, which I have to watch every year, is How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Oh.
Now, I know there's been a couple versions of it, and two I love. The original 1966, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It is animated. It is, God, is it even like a half an hour long? I mean, it's barely, it's so short. You know what I mean? One. Mr. Grinch, which, it's based off a book.
Obviously, a very famous Dr. Seuss book.
Right. And basically, the illustration in the book is identical to what is in the animated short.
Yes.
Now, in high school, our Christmas play was We Did the Grinch. Two narrators read the actual book, and I played the Grinch. So I have a true love for him. I'll go back to Elf. It's like that meaning of like, where do I belong? And I've been cast out, and where can I find family and love? And that's really the heart of it. And, his little heart's so small, it's like about to dry up. And, it's really the year he's had it. He's had it up on the mountain, and he's looking down at Whoville, and they're all so happy.
And he doesn't want them to have joy.
I mean,
'cause
it's
he's
a story
yeah.
of depression, people, too. Okay. I mean, we
yeah.
could just keep going and going. But it's just the most classic. It's very little time commitment. I said it's shockingly short. But where they stretched it out, thank God, was the 2000 live action How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, I was definitely like, what the hell are you doing, Ron Howard? We don't need this. But it was with Universal, and it worked because it was Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And that is How the Grinch Stole Christmas 2000. So there's been other ones that don't totally upset me, but they're not something that I love. I'm like, ugh, okay. Because I actually think that Dr. Seuss The Grinch in 2018, which was voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, was okay. Then the other ones can just, no. But, Jim Carrey really embodied the whole spirit of the Grinch. His physical movements, some of his ad-libs, the way he delivered lines, the whole cast was incredible. He got nominated for a Golden Globe for it. The sets, Ron Howard did such a fantastic job of sort of embracing Whoville, what that was. He did it a little differently. He expanded the Cindy Lou Who narrative part.
Right.
Where she, a Who down in Whoville, maybe didn't have the Christmas spirit. What? So what does that mean? So there's a famous, song in the movie as well, which was, her "Where Are You, Christmas?" I mean, I just love it. I want to watch it right now. Give me the Christmas spirit. So those are my number 1 and 2. So the very original, which was the animated, and the voice is done by Boris Karloff, which is pretty famous. And the Your Mean One, Mr. Grinch is the famous song. Both of them address what is the spirit of Christmas. And it really should be the spirit of giving, and maybe not monetarily wise or gift wise, and that shouldn't be the focus. It should be spending time together with loved ones. And if you do that, then you really have the meaning and the spirit of Christmas. So both of those are truly some of my favorite Christmas, I would say, short animation and long live action. So
Well, if we're going to keep it to 10, though, you only get 1 slot for the Grinch. So that's a combo for the Grinch.
all right.
I disagree.
No? You think they're 2?
I mean, because I don't count yours as just Rudolph, so I can count hers as not just one Grinch.
Hello. Thank you, John.
Okay, so...
But and actually, because the interesting thing is, the other iterations that come later of the Grinch movies, they changed the name, but both the 1966 and the 2000 were both How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So there you go, Catherine. All right.
Okay.
Also, don't forget to give a shout out to Max in both of those.
The dog.
One of the most beloved dogs with a antler horn off of it.
So loyal.
So cute.
There's so many. I mean, like, we could do a deep dive, but, we've got everybody else to go. So, Ed, what do you got?
Let's see. I'm going to go with a classic, Home Alone.
Home Alone.
Oh,
nice.
yes.
Okay.
1990, directed by Christopher Columbus, writer John Hughes. It basically is kind of, again, this little bit of depression in the winter era and the not in the Christmas mood. And although, unfortunately, it's not like the first 20 or 30 minutes of the movie where they're about to go on vacation. If he'd have made it, it would have just been a bad vacation for that kid.
How?
Instead,
Paris and Christmas, I think the little shit could have figured it out.
Family, no.
With that brother, just the one brother.
Just the younger brother, played by his actual real-life brother.
Oh, actually, all the siblings were mean
Yeah,
to
they're
Kevin.
all freaking terrible
All
to
right,
him.
okay.
But it's fine because it ended up working out great, and they learned a lot of lessons.
Yep.
Catherine O'Hara and John Candy trying to make it back to that house as its own subplot of that movie. I want just the 2 hours of them trying to get back and being in the back of that truck and the polka band. All polka? Polka masters? Polka if you can? Polka dancing? None of our albums? You haven't
I
heard?
heard he basically did that part almost for free. And the crazy thing is, like, it is almost like a very short version of what was to come with planes, trains, and automobiles.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And interestingly, in that movie, there's some speeches that got cut out of John Candy's that really fill out his character and his backstory. That you already feel so much for his character, but it's like there's a real heartbreaker at the end that Steve Martin knows because he was there and filmed it, and there isn't a copy of it anywhere.
Oh, you mean in planes, trains, and automobiles?
In planes,
Okay.
trains, yeah.
Okay, got it.
So, also starring some pretty great ones. Some pretty great criminals.
Yeah. Are they great criminals or are they terrible criminals?
I think they're great criminals. They're the wet bandits. They're known throughout all of history.
They need to have a brand, Eddie.
It's true. That's true. They need a brand so that they're recognizable. And then also the cops will know every single house that you hit in this
Oh my God,
neighborhood.
hilarious.
Which, surprisingly, as cold as that neighborhood looked, none of that got real frozen out, even though Kevin's stoop got frozen out. They left water running in all these houses, and it wasn't just like...
It was a suburb of Chicago, right?
Yeah.
There's a meme that goes around quite often. And, like, as you get older and you go back and watch Home Alone, you're like, how did they afford that house? I mean, what did the dad do for a living?
There's been some theories that he might have been a criminal of some kind. And
What? No, you're making that up. Oh my
they
God.
were on the run to Europe. That's what was
Oh,
Oh, my
tax
goodness.
evasion. Okay, makes sense now. Okay.
Generally, I'd say if you haven't watched this one, this might be one that's contemporary enough, not from the 60s, that kids nowadays might actually enjoy this. Because there's a lot of like sight gags and pranks that are very cartoon level violence. So you kind of have to get on board with, oh, this is not realistic. This child living for a week and a half by himself at
Yes,
home.
Kevin was not very nice, played by...
Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, yeah. Give us a whole cast rundown, actually.
The full cast includes Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, Catherine O'Hara, John Candy, And that's basically it. It's one kid and a whole bunch of adults.
Yes.
Wait, who plays his dad? I forgot his dad.
It's John Hurd.
Oh, I think
he has passed away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, the ruined vacation does eventually end. I don't know that we ever really got an update from any of the brothers or sisters, even though there's more of these movies, Home Alone 2 and Home Alone 3, which is then a different kid. I don't understand. Whatever. I don't think we ever really caught back up with all of the siblings, the terrible, terrible siblings that really mistreated him. I don't think they came home after their week of stressing out about losing their brother and their mom having to leave, and then they messed up their own vacation, and then they all probably didn't have a great flight back, and they got home and yeah, Kevin, we still hate you. We still really don't.
As an
enjoy
adult, I look back and I kind of get it. I mean, he really messed up Christmas. It's ridiculous. And I don't want to do a spoiler alert, but Christmas Story 2, he really falls upward too. I mean, he ends up at the Ritz in New York.
Do you mean Home Alone 2?
What did I say?
You said Christmas Story 2.
There was a Christmas Story 2 that also stank. Okay, so, but
Stink, stank, stunk?
stunk. Home Alone 2. Questionable. The other thing is, it's only of an era because he did not have a cell phone. Neither did anybody in the family. There's no way you could now today board a plane and be missing someone in the family.
Yeah.
It'd be
No.
all right. They'd be like, Kevin McAllister. I mean, they'd be like, wait, where's our child? Because they don't leave an empty seat on a plane now without trying. And they'd be like,
And you got to have names and
yeah.
it's a whole thing. Yeah.
That would be interesting because you wouldn't hear that announcement inside the plane. But perhaps, I agree, I don't know, in the system, if it's noting, these
minor.
people booked together or this person is a minor attached to these adults. But honestly, I'm not sure if their system would do that for them.
But it would remind me of the time that we all flew back east for our brother's wedding. We were all singing together. I think at some point we would have
been noticeable.
Where is Eddie or John?
Where's this empty seat coming from?
Well, but they didn't like him.
And the parents were in first class, so they were separated,
That's the
so they didn't
move.
notice.
Yeah.
And that's why it was
You kids back in steerage, go back there. I mean,
Steerage.
I did just watch it a few years ago with my kid, and he thoroughly enjoyed it because, the criminals get really banged up. He loved it, and he did not notice any of those, sort of time flaws that wouldn't hold up today. It was still fine.
This one, although weirdly, it doesn't feel like it's always Christmas time quotable. Interestingly, John and I were watching something completely non-Christmas related last night, and someone was just counting, and all they did was skip numbers, and both of us were like, 1, 2, 10!
Oh,
So you should definitely watch it. I don't think you need to watch all of them, and, there's an awesome update commercial from Macaulay Culkin in the last 5 years where he's doing a Home Alone reboot. Go on YouTube and find that. It's great. It's a little tack on the end.
Good pick, Ed. Good pick.
Yes.
Okay, John, you're up. What do you got?
I guess I will go back to the television special 1965, A Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh, okay.
I really just love the music is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that song, Christmas Time Is Here, that's an original song.
Oh.
The Vince Guaraldi Trio. I also didn't realize they had done apparently a never finished or not produced documentary the year before. They were working on it or whatever. So that's when they brought him in to do the music for that. And he did write the original kind of Peanuts theme, that Linus and Lucy. He wrote that for that unproduced special. And then, of course, ends up in this and then everywhere else. So apparently 1964 for Rudolph and the Red-Nosed Reindeer, 1965 Charlie Brown Christmas, 1966 How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Wow.
Rocking it in those 60s.
Yeah. That was a good run.
Do you have any information on whether or not he wrote that song sitting on the ground on a tiny piano?
I don't think he did, but I have no idea.
Still referenced today, any kind of sad Christmas tree is a Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
well, now they sell a fake, pathetic, sad version of it.
Ooh, this poor
And it
sad
really
tree.
is.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a thing in our house. When we used to do live trees, because now we have a fake tree because it's so
Easier.
Pop it up, clean up, no clean up, just, yeah, it's already got the lights on it. But Eric used to go and try and get a tree, and it was always one side of it's kind of a Charlie
Oh,
Brown
yeah.
sad side. Yeah. As long as
How did you not
'cause,
see
yeah.
that entire chunk of a tree missing?
Here's the deal. If someone has bought a tree and brought it to your home It's good.
It's good. It's good enough. And it's going to go in the corner anyway.
Exactly.
So it's fine.
Just turn it this way, turn it this way.
I will say the other thing I didn't know about the director, Bill Melendez, was also the voice of Snoopy
Oh, really?
and the bird, whose name I can't remember.
Woodstock.
There you go. Good job. He directed many of the Snoopy ones, but before that, because he was also an animator, that's probably why I was involved with all this, worked for Warner Brothers right before that. But then before that, Disney on all the classics. Well, not all the classics, but a number of classics.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
His pedigree was strong.
Yeah.
That does still stand up. It's so sweet.
There's some joke there with his pedigree being strong and doing
I know.
the voice
I heard it too, and I couldn't.
Snoopy,
yeah.
I don't have it though.
Snoopy is an aviator. We don't need a dog joke there. Thank you.
Hilarious. Okay, so I'm going to take over. I'm going to do, this is a Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yeah.
It was directed by Frank Capra. It was released in 1946, and it was not a hit at the time. People did not go see it. It did get nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards that it did not win. It then kind of fell off everybody's radar. And then luckily fell into the public domain. And that's where it became universally seen because TV stations would air it because it was free. No licensing fees because it's in the public domain. And people started seeing it and thought, oh my God, this is an amazing movie. It is considered one of the best movies. Like, it's on a lot of top 100 lists. It's incredibly heartwarming. You know, the trope of the movie is used over and over. A lot of TV episodes do the Wonderful Life trope. But the basic story is Jimmy Stewart's character,
George Bailey.
George Bailey, is at the end of his rope, literally, and thinking that he doesn't want to live anymore.
Because of a series of events that happened.
Correct. And an angel comes down and basically walks him through the memories of his life and how things would be different if he had not existed.
The things that he's forgotten he's done for people
Correct.
that has really changed their lives and shows them what would have happened if he wasn't there.
Because he's made a lot of selfless decisions, giving up his dream to travel, to run the family loan company after his father passes away, marrying a girl that he didn't even really think he was interested in, and then they end up together and having a lovely little family, and then saving his uncle from his vices, basically, and then saving the pharmacist from accidentally killing someone. There's all these great stories woven in. So you first see how they worked out.
And his wife from being a
Spinster librarian. So the structure of it is you see all of the things that he's done in his life, like saving his brother from drowning, which causes him to go deaf in one ear, and all these other things that he's done. We see those with the angel who's going to come down and kind of help him. And then it's all reminding him of, you've had such an effect on people's lives in such a positive way, and if you had not been here, things would have gone a totally different direction. I mean, not even to mention the arch rival nemesis of Mr. Potter, the banker, who is just incarnate evil. He's like the capitalist
He's
evil.
like the most Voldemort Potter that there is.
I did think that when I was like, Mr. Potter. And then I was like, oh, I'm kind of saying it like from Harry Potter. No, but yes, Mr. Potter, the banker, is really just terrible. And if George Bailey's character had not stood up to him, things would have been completely different. So design-wise of the flashback, that has been copied a million times to varying degrees of for comedic effect or dramatic effect. It's such a great movie. It's scheduled to air in multiple places on Christmas. I think Bravo and E are going to air it in December sometime, and then NBC on Christmas Eve. And it is also available on Prime Video and then for purchase on Apple TV Plus. It's so good, and I could watch it every year. I do basically watch it every year. So
it's a black and white classic.
Which there was some
shot.
controversy because they did colorize it at one point. People did not dig that.
I have had to occasionally turn the color completely off on a televised version. I'm like, I'm not watching this in color.
No, I don't need that.
I don't think I've ever
forget,
seen
and
it
the
in
next day I'd be like,
color.
the hell's wrong with the TV?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it in color. So.
Yeah, the color edition was a little bit weird. People didn't love it because it
Thanks,
changes
Ted
it.
Turner.
Yeah. Well, they tried to update it. There have been other versions of it made over the years, but the original is the way to go. And Jimmy Stewart is fantastic. And
Mary,
even, I was just going
Mary.
to say, the way he says, Mary, Mary.
I feel like there's an interesting thing that happens in this movie where it's a bunch of stuff that's not Christmas time, but there's like the reference or the reason why we're looking at those is very Christmas timey. I was going to say, Meet Me in St. Louis should be very much a Christmas movie because it's got like a song in it that everybody knows. White Christmas. No, it's not White Christmas, is it?
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
And then the other 95% of the movie is just the rest of the year.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about this movie because I would have liked to have chosen this movie, but then I didn't let myself. And I call it a Christmas movie anyway.
See?
It's on two lists I looked at as a Christmas movie.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You mean
So-
St. Louis? It is considered a Christmas movie. And in Sex and the City, when Carrie is at home on New Year's Eve and has no place to go and no one to be with, she watches it by herself. Okay.
Well, I think the reason It's a Wonderful Life, even though it's got so much going on that is in the flashbacks and of his life that is not Christmas, it's that it ends, the culmination of the movie is Christmas. And when the bell rings, it's on the tree. You know, the bell getting the angel
God's
Clarence. Oh, Clarence getting his wings. And the little daughter Zuzu is, you know, like that means the angel got his wings. So,
Oh, Susan.
yeah, obviously it's taking place at Christmas time, this crisis moment of his. And then to have that super warm Christmas ending.
It's a Christmas. It's not even a debate.
Oh, it's not a debate. No, of course
All
not.
right.
Do you think he ever got the banister fixed at the end of the stairs, the little thing that popped? He loves it by the end of the movie. He's like, this old house is going to fucking kill me, but
it's still broken.
Probably
Yeah.
not. Probably not.
Yeah.
I will then talk about a movie that is also a debate if it's a Christmas movie.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because it originally was considered a Halloween movie.
Oh.
Nightmare Before Christmas, but Christmas is in the name.
It's neither.
Oh, wow. No,
what?
you're completely.
Okay.
Meaning because it's not one or the other, it's both. And
Yes,
therefore-
exactly my point. Okay, so it was released in 1993 in October. So they were leaning into Nightmare Before Christmas. It is a story of Halloween Town, and it's basically Pumpkin King Jack Skellington. And we start the movie after the day after Halloween, which has been hugely successful, and you're seeing vampires and werewolves and all, ghosts, everything you'd think was in Halloween Town. But Jack Skellington is just not satisfied. It's voiced by Chris Sarandon, but he doesn't sing the songs. That is done by Danny Elfman. So it's an interesting combination. So Jack, all bewildered and upset about just not feeling like this isn't that exciting anymore for him. Halloween. What more is there for me? Wanders into a forest and comes upon multiple doors with, beautiful sort of symbols on each one representing different holidays. And he basically falls into Christmas Town. So John's right. It bridges the gap between Halloween and Christmas. Okay. Which then Jack falls in love with Christmas. What's this? With the da-da-da-da. So he then wants to do Christmas and take it away from Sandy Claus.
Sandy.
Not Santa Claus. And chaos ensues. It is Tim Burton's vision. He did not write the screenplay of it. That was done by Carolyn Thompson, and it was directed by Henry Selick. So it's interesting because they'll sometimes put Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. And unfortunately, sort of like the director almost gets forgotten.
Yeah, glossed over a bit.
Yeah, which is
Dr. Seuss didn't do any of the
actual animation.
The Grinches, yeah.
So it's kind of fascinating where you're like, oh, he was totally involved, but at the time he was working on another project, so he could not be as in depth on this. It has become a total classic, and it's really, once again, where do you belong? Where are your true talents, and lean into those. And it's also a love story and finding who your family is and embracing that, and how it can go really wrong if you decide to insert yourself in a position where maybe you should not be. Okay. But, the voices, ironically, guess what? She's a Christmas miracle. Katherine O'Hara plays Sally, who is the love interest, and also another one that doesn't want to be beholden to maybe her upbringing, her birth, her place. She wants to go beyond it. And like I said, Chris Sarandon voices Jack Skellington, but Danny Elfman sings the songs. And Danny Elfman also does a couple other voice characters as well.
Well, and did you say that he wrote the score and all the songs?
And that was the beginning. Tim Burton, that was really the beginning of their long-term, partnership, collaboration
really, yeah.
of Danny Elfman, who is known for the band Oingo Boingo. It was now Danny Elfman doing soundtracks, which, basically
Really a
changed,
composer.
It changed
Yeah.
the course of his life because, I don't know that Oingo Boingo will be doing anything other than tribute tours right now. I mean, just in the sense of like how old they would be. So for him to be able to score incredible movies, TV shows, and have that partnership with Tim Burton has been incredible.
It's interesting because he has such a distinctive sound, which is in this movie, but then he scored things where you wouldn't know it was him.
Absolutely
I mean,
not.
he's just an
No.
amazing talent.
So Catherine O'Hara, does Sally, does an incredible job with it. William Hickey does Dr. Philstein, who is basically the mad scientist who is keeping her captive pretty much. Then you have Paul Rubens, from Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Batman Returned, which is our collaborations also with Tim Burton. So you have all these fabulous voice actors that Tim Burton then ends up using in live action movies as well, because he goes on to do Beetlejuice with Catherine O'Hara, and just you can see he likes these relationships and just keeps building them. But like I said, it's really the story of Jack Skellington and him deciding that he's not fulfilled. And he goes on a journey that brings him right back home, and he realizes that's where he always belonged. It is a masterpiece. It is absolutely gorgeous. You can watch it on Disney. It's owned by Disney, and they do their whole haunted house theme based on it.
Yeah.
And it stays up all the way from Halloween to Christmas. Halloween, tons of people dress up, from the characters from it. I've done it. Our sisters have. It is a classic, iconic holiday movie because you can start watching around Halloween and it can go all the way to Christmas. And then you can also just other times fall into it. I just want to watch this scene because what's going to happen? Like the mayor, I'm only an elected official. I mean, there's just so many great voice actors in it. Okay, so that was mine, The Nightmare Before Christmas. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, and as a side note, we also did Huge Fans on Tim Burton.
Yes.
And talked about it a lot in that episode of the Huge Fans podcast.
Not to challenge you, Liz, but I did actually watch that before our Halloween episode, and I was wearing Jack Skellington Nightmare Before Christmas stuff then. And I don't disagree. There's a lot of Christmas energy in it, but it's a kind of a dark vibe of Christmas. It's
Yes.
a little more of a goth vibe, which is a different vibe, so that works.
I will say, Liz, did you also, I think you were the first, I don't remember, didn't you get I wouldn't say ornament, but a decoration somewhat inspired by this, I feel like?
Oh, yeah, I have a black Christmas tree. But it doesn't stay up through Christmas.
No, it's a Halloween. Because
It's a Halloween, but
has
that's
pumpkins on it, right?
Yeah, that's the crossover.
That's the crossover.
Yes. It's listen. I mean, I there are people that truly, truly embrace it, and they almost their lives are borderline themed on it. Like that's the influence it's had. It's very impactful.
Very impactful. Okay, Ed, you're up.
Speaking of very impactful, something that hit home to someone like me as like one of the siblings of other people that are doing stuff. You're like, well, I've got to live my life. I got to do what I'm doing, and maybe I don't want to do what you. Maybe you're too famous for me, Fred Claus.
Oh, I did like that.
Fred Claus from 2007.
Yeah.
Starring Vince Vaughn. Also Paul Giamatti, who's not really your classic Santa Claus. Kind of one of my favorite Santa Clauses out of all because he doesn't look the part, and then he kind of plays a little of the normal kind of curmudgeon-y, not always. He's not like ho ho ho, bright, cheery. He like puts that on as a character. He's like, no, I gotta go to work. Ho ho ho!
Paul Giamatti as Santa Claus is such inspired casting.
So good. The premise of this feature is the Christmas miracle and Santa Claus extends beyond just Mr. and Mrs. Claus. It's more like the whole family. That way you're not like excluding them and becoming a magical being that lives for 600 years, but your parents are dead and your siblings are dead. That's very sad. So they get to stay alive too. Do they have a choice? No. They have to just figure out life from like Norway in the 1400s all the way to the year 2000. I can't even fathom the amount of BS Fred Claus would have done all the way up until the current era that we're in, but we only catch up with him in like the 2000s. And he is trying to like do this repo business where he's basically doing the reverse of Santa Claus and taking things from people.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's not a great job. He's not making enough money doing it. Not everybody fails to pay their bills. So he's struggling and trying to make things work, and also totally hasn't figured out, quote unquote, his life because he's had a couple hundred years to find a spouse and maybe never found the right one. So now we've got Rachel Weisz, clearly the right one. You just had to wait that out. A couple hundred years, you get a Rachel Weisz. Good, we're good. That's the one. He's not making it work. He's really messing it up. So,
Whoops.
premise of this movie is a classic holiday family story where I gotta go home for Christmas because I'm broke and I screwed up and I'm embarrassed. I gotta drag my girlfriend with me because I'm supposed to propose, but I can't afford the ring, or whatever that classic story is, except your family member is Santa. It's the North Pole, and then you have to break the news to your lady that you could be a Claus if you want to.
I hope that's an appealing idea.
Does that work?
I didn't remember this, but looking at it, he was in jail and asked Nick for bail money.
Bail money.
And his condition was that he had to come to the North Pole.
Nick being St. Nicholas.
Yes.
No, Nick, his brother, who might also be.
Yeah, because it's Nicholas and Fredericulus. No.
Fredericulus?
Oh, don't give anybody any ideas, Eddie. Someone will name their child that now.
Generally speaking of Fredericulus, however I just said that, Ludacris is in this movie as an elf, but he's the DJ. And there's a little bit of a issue with the music selection, and Vince has to get involved. The whole elf colony side story of it could have just been animated characters. We don't see them. Polar Express, they're not even human. Move on. Just don't even look at them. But we got miniaturized actors. Everyone got shrunk down CG characters. It was amazing to get basically a whole nother cast of and storyline going. I'll call out a couple of those. John Michael Higgins plays Willie, who's the best man to Vince Vaughn, helps him figure things out. He's really trying to help him get things sorted. But Vince Vaughn goes regular swingers mode and goes into wingman, trying to help him figure out his love life. And that's with Elizabeth Banks.
Right.
So, again, between Rachel Weisz and Elizabeth Banks, I'm I'm going to watch this movie more than once. Is it funny? Yes. Is it heartwarming? Yes. Does Paul Giamatti and Vince Vaughn get into a snowball fight? Yes. So what more could you ask for besides Ludacris? I'll tell you what you could ask for. Mrs. Claus.
Oh.
The Mrs. Claus. The actual married to Paul Giamatti, Kathy Bates. Also fantastic.
That's his mother, I believe.
Whose mother? Oh, sorry. You're right. That's Mrs.
I was going to say that seems like an
Mrs.
age
Grand
difference.
Claus.
Yeah.
Mrs. Grand Claus. That's the Grand Claus. And there's this other moment that happens because you don't spend too much time in the regular world. There's some time spent in the regular world, and we got to go back and deliver presents at some point. There's a whole subplot of naughty or nice list. Christmas stuff. Don't even worry about that. The important things that I need to call out here is that when you are the sibling of a celebrity, sometimes you are either siphoning off their life or trying to get your own thing going, and it's really hard to find the spot. And between Frank Stallone, Roger Clinton, and Stephen Baldwin all playing themselves as not the famous sibling. It's kind
Are they
of
at a
amazing.
card game? What is it?
No, it's a support group.
Oh, support group.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, of course, he goes and then gets booted out because it's Santa. No one's believing that he's...
Oh, no.
So good.
But he really does have the same problem.
I have issues.
And there's something about Vince Vaughn and his bewildered 3 eye bag deep, look.
You love to say that. Poor Vince Vaughn.
Because he just has an element of him he just needs a good night of rest. He needs to be appreciated. He needs to be acknowledged. He needs to be heard. And it's just, he looks like he doesn't get that. He just doesn't get it.
Now, I'm not suggesting this is a good plot line for a Christmas movie or a Santa Claus family money borrowing drama situation. But if he had been a cop, not a repo man, he could have gone full True Detective and solved some insane crime and been exhausted and never had any sleep because Christmas is not going to happen if I don't find out who murdered Rudolph.
What? Okay, we're not even going to go.
I'm just saying,
We don't even need a more explanation. I don't even want to know.
That sounded like a Saturday Night Live sketch.
Yes, it's just like a Saturday Night Live sketch of if Fred Claus was Detective Fred Claus. Or,
just
true
investigating the murder of Rudolph.
Jeez. I mean, maybe we could go with Grandma got run over by a reindeer, but I don't know that we can go that far.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Jeez, Louise. All right, Ed. Thank you.
That was a good one. Unexpected. Good one. Okay, John.
Oh, sure. So another early 90s, 1992's The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
I mean, yeah.
It's Muppets, and the music is great, And it's Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. Michael Caine is a fantastic Ebenezer Scrooge.
He is amazing, like really moving. I mean, you wouldn't think that A Muppet Christmas Carol would be as moving as this movie is. I've cried watching this movie.
It is fantastic.
He's amazing. Yeah.
He might be the only Scrooge I actually sign on for, outside of my other personal favorite, Scrooged.
Scrooge starring Bill Murray is fantastic.
That is on my list of I will play that. I will find that and just play that back sometime in the week of or between Christmas and New Year's to still kind of, there's a party I'm going to. I'm over it. Let me put that on. I'm into it again. I'm actually Michael Caine, figure it out. All those other guys are you rich old bastard. One day. No.
What I didn't realize, directed by the son of Jim Henson, Brian Henson. And so he's obviously been working in that world. He was part of that world forever. I also didn't know Frank Oz. I didn't realize, obviously, voices and puppets, Yoda, but he's also directed things, and the music person he worked with is the one who scored this, Miles Goodman. So I was excited to learn that.
Well, and Frank Oz obviously does Miss Piggy's voice, doesn't he?
Right. I'm sorry. I didn't go into...
I think we need to make sure that we say that.
I feel like he's a famous part of the Muppets, and so that's what the main thing I think about him only. Really.
Okay, so you were expanding on the base knowledge of doing Miss Piggy.
Yeah, he may not be the Wizard of Oz, but...
Okay.
There's a great documentary that you can watch now. It's Jim Henson, The Idea Man, and it really talks about the origin, and it's on Disney. And they do even address part of this because it's almost like a legacy. And I've seen Michael Caine talk about how it was one of the best parts he's ever played or experiences he had on set, which I mean, you are still dealing with humans, even though your eye line as an actor would be with the puppets. And it's then how are you emoting or exchanging those emotions with another, non-human being.
Right. You're looking at a Muppet, but then you're dealing with a person below them.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
It would be you would think it'd be challenging, but he does it so beautifully. They're just able to create those emotions through, turning of the head, pulling, Kermit with, when you get always the mouth goes back.
Yeah.
So
the artistry of the Muppets is quite amazing. I just want to call out the rats. How funny the rats are.
I mean, every part of it, but yes, they are fantastic.
And
I need to watch this again this
I know,
year.
I do too. I own a physical copy of it, so I'm safe. I can always watch it.
That is unimportant because the original copy that this family has owned is the VHS that
Big,
we still have.
puffy VHS cassette case, too. Not one of those
awesome.
slim boxes.
Nice.
You're
That's
keeping,
what you need.
you're keeping this forever. You're showing your grandchildren's grandchildren. Okay. This box is really
Katherine.
good.
Yeah, the songs are so good. And I famously don't really like a musical, but
Yes, you don't love musicals, Katherine.
I don't.
That's it.
But they're really good.
It's because you do like musicals if they're good.
Oh, maybe that's true. I do want to point out that obviously this is A Christmas Carol based on Charles Dickens' original story, A Christmas Carol. And A Wonderful Life is often said to be an offshoot of it. And I would say the biggest difference is, obviously, A Christmas Carol, he has one night where he's reminded of all the crappy things that he's done and then vows to change, right? Wakes up in the morning and is like, is it still Christmas? I'm going to be a whole new man, whatever, great.
Go get me a goose.
I know. So, and there's been tons of adaptations. And again, that is a trope that is used over and over with the flashbacks and, changing.
A Wonderful Life.
Changing the way. Yes, this is my point. So the difference between A Wonderful Life is they're showing all the beautiful things that he did that were right. And he's at a crisis point where he doesn't want to live anymore, which is very different than A Christmas Carol, where he's done everything wrong and they're just trying to show him he should change because he has no intention of changing.
I feel like it's impossible for me not to combine these two things in this conversation right now. It's just Mr. Potter, but he ends up not buying the goose the next morning. He's like, never mind, I'm rich, I win. You are correct. My old, my now, and my future looks great. I'm in.
Right, but if you think of it as George Bailey is getting all these flashbacks, every single flashback is a selfless, beautiful thing that he's done. As opposed to if it was Mr. Potter or, Scrooge, it's all of the terrible things that he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Back to what I said, Charles Dickens' descendants. I mean, are they around? Are they still making dime off of this? There's so many versions of it. But John, I do want to go watch the Muppet one now. It's been too long.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, I want to go watch it right now. This has been a good reminder. Very hard to get down to just 10.
it's impossible.
Because I left out one of my favorites. I'm not going to review it. I'm just going to say, because it's not really a movie, Prep and Landing, the 2 animated shorts on Disney. Oh my God, they're so good. All right, that's all I'll say.
Well, and I think the other thing that we could have brought up and should have maybe made the family list is Trading Places, because that's got such a good family lore of, Eddie watching it inappropriately when we were kids and us getting caught by our parents.
Because Jamie Lee Curtis on a
Wowzers.
topless scene that, can stand the test of time. So on Christmas Eve with Eggnog, maybe not the movie to have watched with the family, but
when we were kids,
still great.
We got in big trouble. Okay,
She's just trying to keep him warm. It's totally fine.
Okay, so let's do a recap because we need to say where everything is available. So I'll start with Elf, according to my Googling, is available to stream on Max, also available to purchase for streaming on Apple TV Plus and Amazon Video. Also, it's going to air on various places, but,
Christmas Story is the same way. I'm sure local listings will do what they normally do. There might be a marathon, but regardless, you can watch it on Max.
Yes, there's 2 marathons for sure on TBS and TNT, and those start in the evening on Christmas Eve and end in the early evening on Christmas. Kind of staggered timings, but available as a marathon on both of those, and on Max if you already have the Max subscription.
Correct.
Okay, so for me, I did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and that is available for purchase on Apple TV Plus and possibly other streaming services. You can buy the DVD and Blu-ray sets for not a lot, including Rudolph and a bunch of the other ones that Rank and Bash did. And then it will be airing one and only time during the season on NBC.
With commercials,
Of
too.
course.
Oh.
That's not the ideal way to watch it, although I'm sure NBC is like, yes, please watch it. But that's what they do.
the original experience.
Yeah, they air it one time. Or pull a Rosemary, our sister, and record it.
Oh, Lord. Well, I have done that, but... And
Go
then you
buy a VCR. Find
Well,
tapes.
you can do it on your DVR. That would be very funny. I got a VHS
Can't
machine
record it
just for
without
this.
commercials on your DVR. What kind of planet are you on? That's fine. It's fine.
All right. So, and my second one for our top 10 list was It's a Wonderful Life. And it is included on Prime. So if you already have Prime, you can watch it on Prime Video. Other than that, it is available for streaming purchase on Apple TV Plus, and it will air on NBC on Christmas Eve and then also on Bravo and on E during December. So check your local listings.
Okay, great. Nightmare Before Christmas available on Disney Plus, and then the Grinches. Okay, I'm going to say both. Okay, sorry, Katherine.
That's your one. You get a hybrid.
So the animated 1966 How the Grinch Stole Christmas available on Hulu, and it probably will be playing on some local cable/network television during the holidays, and you can purchase on Amazon Prime. How the Grinch Stole Christmas Jim Carrey is available for purchase quite a few places, Amazon, Apple TV, and we're crossing our fingers they'll start playing on cable or some other place for free during the holidays. It has to. Come on, Universal. So there you go.
And Home Alone, which is available on Disney Plus. I did not look up where the sequels are. Good luck. Go find them yourself. And Fred Claus, which is available on Hulu.
The Muppet Christmas Carol is on Disney, and then A Charlie Brown Christmas is on Apple.
All right, so that's it for this very Christmassy episode of What We're Watching. Thank you for joining us. You can follow us on all of our social media at Podcast Watching, and you can watch us on YouTube at the Knack Entertainment YouTube channel. So that'll be it for this episode, and I guess we should say Happy Holidays!
Holidays!
And that's it for What We're Watching.